Aubrey, thank you very much for your time today. Again, I don't think there's people that don't know you in our fraternity. You said earlier that you spent a lot of time the last 2 years to get your name out there a bit more. I don't think you had to do that. Everyone knows you. I've been working with you for a couple of years. You know, if there's anyone asking me a question, I say always just phone Aubrey and his team. You guys are one of the more knowledgeable people out there. You always have time for us, and yeah, I mean, you always give good feedback, and it's lucky to share our information with our clients. It is very important. Aubrey, you're going to talk about sectional titles today and the building plans relating thereto, correct?
Yes, we will do a quick run through all the aspects of sectional title, just to give a brief background on it and some issues that we deal with on a daily basis. And at the end, we will also have a poll to ask if there's specific issues that we can perhaps do a follow-up training on. So yeah, to start off with, I think we'll go through the process, and if there's questions, you can put it in the chat, and at the end we will look at the questions, and if we don't get to all the answers, we will put it in writing and send it to all the participants.
Yes, and very important with the PPA that came into effect. We all know that property condition reports is very important. You all need to have it completed before you take the mandate even. That's one element. I mean, Aubrey, I think you always hammer on being a bit more transparent to the buyers as a seller, and the building plans is a quite important part of that. And I think you must maybe just touch on that point as well from your side as well, just to enlighten our clients a bit more on the responsibilities thereof.
We will definitely have a look at that. I just want to make sure that we have the right presentation and that we can share it, and that there we go. Can you see the presentation at the moment?
Perfect.
The shared one?
Yes, sir.
Jenny, sorry, Wimpy, can you see the presentation?
I can see it, yes.
Okay, 100%. Thank you, Wimpy. We will do that, just that. As I said, we can keep you busy for a day, but we're just going to touch on certain aspects. And because we typically have a wide variety of expertise on sectional title, from novices to experienced people, we will have to do some of the basics. So yeah, bear with us if you are experienced. I can add that this is the only free training where you get your money back if you don't learn something. So let's hope you learn something today. There's just a poll up so we can see who we're talking to, and I can see most at this point is property practitioners. So yeah, we will focus on that, and some trustees, some owners, and a few others. I'm just going to end the poll from this side. At least now we know who we're talking about too. And let's see if we can move this forward. No, not. Okay, now our presentation is stuck. We did test it before, and there we go. Okay, thank you very much. Just a bit about myself and the company. I'm Abrie Snyman, CEO of Multiprof Property Intelligence. I'm a town planner by trade. I started the company Multiprof Property Intelligence 24 years ago now, and we specialize in town planning, architecture, and in the meantime we have added quite a few divisions. We do property inspections, we do civil engineering, we do environmental, and a few others, but today we're going to mostly focus on the town planning, architecture, and then our division that deals with sectional title. So let's see. Okay, let's start off by what is sectional title. Sectional title is a different way of owning property. Sectional title describes separate ownership of units or sections within a complex or a development. And important to understand, when you buy into sectional title complex, you purchase a section or sections and an undivided share in common property. So the question is, sorry, we just check here if we have a...
We're not sharing the correct screen.
Okay, we seems like we're on the wrong screen. So Jenny is just quickly fixing it for us. There we go. Okay, there we go. What is sectional title? We've dealt with. Thank you for Jenny for always fixing the issues. As we said, you buy a section and an undivided share in the common property. And okay, now let's see if it wants to move on this time. No. Just bear with us. I'm not sure what is the problem. This one don't want to move at the moment. Jenny, can you perhaps just come and see again if we can salvage this? Sorry about this. We tested everything up front, but as with technology, we don't have a moving slide at this stage.
Abrie, just wanted to know, will you be able to share the slides with us after the presentation as well?
Yes, we can do that. We normally would share the recording because that explains the slides as well. On its own, the slides can sometimes be misleading or used not in the correct way. So we prefer to share there we go, fixed. So we prefer to share the recording, then the slides can be seen in context. Okay, thank you, we fixed. Okay, what is common property? Now, as we said, in a complex or in any sectional title, including duets, when you buy a section, you buy basically the inside of a unit. So if you buy a 2-bedroom flat, you buy everything that's inside, including the inside wall, not the outside wall. So common property is everything on the outside of the inside, if I can explain it that way. So all the land and all the spaces is not included in the section. And typically, if you buy a section and there's a garden, that will be common property. And although often, and that's one of the big, I think, misleading pieces of information that is often given to potential buyers, is that the garden belongs to the unit. It is common property, and in some cases it is exclusive use common property. But take note that all exclusive use areas is still common property. So exclusive use areas is the right to use a specific piece of common property, but it needs to be registered in some way. Technically, we have two ways that it's normally done. The one is on the sectional title plan. It will be indicated as exclusive use area, linked to a specific unit or section, and it will state what it can be used for. The alternative way that we deal with more often lately is where it is registered in the rules of the complex and for that, there needs to be a plan that is lodged with the rules to CSOS, and only when that is approved, the exclusive use area will be created. Now, this is a typical exclusive use area plan that we prepare for complexes. So you'll see that the brown areas would be the section itself, then the garden areas and the areas at the back on the plan is indicated as exclusive use area, and all the white areas is still common property. So as we said, for the exclusive use, it means that it's common property for which a specific unit have the use of for a specific purpose. And typically it would say exclusive use area for garden. Now that means it must be a garden. You can't put up a structure there. You can't say, now it's mine, so I'm going to do there whatever I want. I'm going to fix cars or whatever under my carport because now it's mine. It is specific for the use it can be used for, that it's indicated for. Okay, so factors affecting the compliance of a complex and then a specific unit in a complex is, of course, there's many of them, and we're just going to quickly go through basics so that you understand the complexity of it. That is, if we can move. I have no idea why we struggle so with the presentation today. I think we're stuck again. I have no idea. Okay, let's try and something else. No, there we go. Okay, we make progress. Okay, the first thing that we need to understand is a sectional title complex used to be a normal stand in a township. So there will be, in the town planning scheme, there will be a zoning certificate. And the zoning certificate will indicate what it is used for, what it can be used for. It will, for instance, say residential 2, meaning group housing. It will say how many units there can be, and it will have areas, certain conditions, of which one is coverage, floor area ratio. It will determine that the site development plan is necessary, and it will importantly give minimum parking requirements, and we'll get to that. Let's see, what is coverage? Coverage is the total roofed amount of roofed area in the complex. So let's say the coverage allowed is 30%, and the area of the earth is 10,000 square meters. It means you can only have roofed areas of 3,000 square meters. Now, the danger with this is where additional additions, for instance, carports, are allowed to be erected in a complex without going through the processes that is required, which would include approved building plans. So it might be that there's already too many roofed areas in your complex, and council will not approve more, and you might even have to remove some of the roofed areas, for instance, carports that have been erected illegally or without following process. So it is important when you sell or when you market a unit in a complex that you know that your buyer will be able to use that carport in the long run, and that council won't come and say, listen, remove all of these. You have too many roofed areas, so you need to remove it, because he will come back to the property practitioner that had the responsibility of doing the homework and making sure that what you pretend, or what the seller pretend to sell to the buyer, was legal and in fact belong to the seller. As we have said, often these carports and lapas and pools are built on common property, and therefore, even though the owner, your seller, paid for it, it may not, or it will not belong to the owner. It belongs to everybody, it's common property, and therefore it would be a misrepresentation if you tell the buyer that that is his carport. You need the paperwork to prove it. It either must form part of his section, or it must at least be exclusive use area for you to be able to offer this to the buyer. Floor area ratio, we don't have to say much about it. It's only in high-rise buildings mostly, where you have, it refers to the bulk of all the buildings, and problems come in when you have a block of flats and there was open balconies and they are enclosed, and suddenly it becomes part of the floor area ratio. So again, make sure that everything was, if there's alterations, that it was done legally. Height, we are not going to say much about, only when people have added to the top of their of the units, there might be problems, but that doesn't happen often. And then a big problem in complexes is parking. Now, as we have seen in the town planning scheme, in the zoning certificate, it would state the minimum amount of parking, and it will be divided into parking for the units, typically 1 or 2, and then it will ensure that there's visitors parking. Now, that visitors parking is for visitors. You cannot utilize it as an owner and prevent areas being available for visitors. A typical problem that you must be aware of is where garages that was part of a unit and was part of the minimum requirements have been converted into living areas, bedrooms, living rooms, where procedures was not followed. And I can assure you that it is 95% of all conversions of garages was done without following due process, and it will come back to bite you. It is a problem. There's a high court case where it was determined that all of those garages in a complex have to be returned to its original position of a garage. Keep in mind that those parking bays in the garage was set aside for that unit. If you don't use it for parking your car, you need to use common property for that. And you don't have any more right on the common property than all other people. And therefore, you cannot just make the assumption or say, oh, well, there's space in front of my garage, I'm going to park there. That area does not belong to you, and everybody in the complex have a right to use that space for entertainment, for walking the dog, for whatever it is. So you can't just claim that, okay, there is space, so I can park there. So parking, keep in mind. Then there's servitudes, for instance, for municipal services. And often we see that especially things like lapas are built over municipal sewers other servitudes, and those structures can mostly never be approved. So be careful when you deal with a unit that have a LAPA that's on the fence, where you don't have approved building plans. The chances is excellent that that will have to be demolished. And once you, as a property practitioner, have indicated to a potential buyer that this form part of what he's buying, he can, when it comes out, either have a case against you for misleading him as the buyer, or he can cancel the deal. And that's where your conveyancer will be able to advise you how to deal with that. But your responsibility as the professional in the deal is to ensure that what you are offering your buyer is in fact what he will be able to take possession of and can keep. And unfortunately, as I said, it is very often procedures was not followed. And if you do your homework up front, it is sometimes advisable to tell your seller, listen, it will be easier and cheaper for you to remove certain structures, and specifically things like windy houses, that in some complexes, there's quite a few of them that's illegal and they are put up in servitude areas. It's not going to affect the value of the unit, but it can cost your seller 30,000-40,000 Rand to try and legalize it, because your buyer say, you showed it to me, so I want it. So yeah, be careful for things like that. Okay, then of course the most important part of sectional title is sectional title plans. Sectional title plans, as you will know, is the plans that indicate what form part of the sections, what form part of common property, and what you are in fact dealing with. Now, this is an extract from a sectional title plan for a complex, but what you are dealing with when you sell in a complex is what's indicated in red. It's only the inside of the section of the unit. Number 24, the inside measured, surveyed from the middle of the outside wall, and the inside is what you're selling, except where you have evidence that exclusive use areas have been created either by the land surveyor or in the rules. If that doesn't exist, and it's up to the owner to prove that, it's not good enough to say, oh, when I bought this, I was told that I am buying the lapa, the garden, and the carport with my unit. The proof lies in documentation that needs to be provided, and therefore it is not possible to really sell in sectional title complexes or in duets without having the documentation that is available on the internet. So with a bit of learning, you can you will be able to obtain these plans yourself, or you can ask your conveyancer or your principal to assist you with obtaining this document. And this document should always form part of your transaction to prevent the idea that a misrepresentation was done. Building plans is a requirement, and all structures erected need building plans temporary structures as well as permanent structures of any material and any structure for accommodation or convenience of human beings or animals, even facilities for water, draining, sewage, stormwater, all of those things need building plans. Exceptions, there's minor building works that differ from council to council, but you still need to apply for that. You cannot just assume, okay, this Wendy is only 6 square meters, so this is a minor building works. I'm not supposed to submit building plans. You need to have proof that you ask for exemption, and only then it will be seen as a minor building works. At this point, as far as building plans, we skipped one slide. Let's just go quickly back to the sectional title plans. The last page will indicate the size of your unit, and you are only selling what is in the second row. The square meterage, it would be 83. That is what the levy is determined by, and that is what you pay for. So always have that in mind and know that that is what you offer your thing. Okay, back to the building plans. Important when a seller offer you the building plan, have a look if there is a stamp on it. If there's no stamp on it, it's not a building plan, it's a piece of paper. It has no value. It needs, it will have a plan number on it, and it will have an approved stamp. We from time to time see building plans and there's a stamp on, but the stamp says submitted. That means the plan was submitted, but for some reason, council wouldn't approve it. So that plan also have no value. Then a building plan indicates what you plan to build, but that's not to say that that makes the building legal, because often people don't build it as it's indicated on the building plan. We had cases where structures was added without foundations. Now on the building plan, it will show the foundation, but nobody bothered to do the foundation. We had cases where toilets was added. It's indicated on the plan as being connected to the system, but in real life, it is just not connected. It was just too expensive to put the pipes 20 meters. So what they did is they just dug a hole, put the pipe down, put some rocks in and cover it up. And you think you have a toilet that is connected to the system, but it's not. If you only use it once in a month, it's fine, but you sell it and the new owner have 6 children, in a week you can't live there. So the way to ensure that everything was built legally is to look at the certificate of occupancy. It is a legal requirement that nobody is allowed to move into a house or a unit without a certificate of occupancy. Unfortunately, this have not been done for years, and therefore we today sit with lots of illegal, dangerous, and unhealthy structures because they were not built according to regulations and nobody ever obtained a certificate of occupancy. Your buyer should insist on approved building plan, certificate of occupancy, and up-to-date sectional title plans. And you, as the property practitioner, should facilitate this and make your buyer aware of the risks of buying a property without these documents, because when problems arise, he's going to come back to you and say, the Property Practitioners Act make it a condition that you will inform me if there's potential financial losses that I can suffer, and you haven't done that, so I have a claim against you as far as that's concerned. It's also just the right thing to do. If you buy a property for yourself, you would like all of these things to be in place. You don't want surprises. I think, therefore, it is the right thing to do, even if it wasn't a legal requirement, which it is. There's also in the title deeds, there might be problems, and especially as far as carports and Wendy houses is concerned. In some title conditions, in some title deeds, you'll find conditions that firstly will have building lines, as we said, for servitudes. And then secondly, in this case, you can see no buildings or structure erected on the servitude allowed. And then another one that say no structures of wood or iron is allowed on the property. So what is a Wendy made of? Wood. What is a carport made of? Steel. And it can cost the owner lots of money to legalize it. And sometimes if it's done up front, it's easier just to remove the structure before you show it to a potential buyer. Okay, the big issues that we normally have in complexes, specifically, as we said, carports, adding of additional rooms, especially things like sculleries, or the enclosing of areas at the back of the kitchen where the washing machine goes and all of those things. Often that is enclosed in a way where the ventilation is affected and it can't be approved. When the houses, we said, patios, balconies, courtyards that we referred to, and then what we mentioned, the converting garages into living spaces, all of those things need to go through processes, and you need all the documentation to prove that. Another important factor that is becoming relevant more and more is that you need to ensure that your potential buyer is handed a copy of the conduct and the management rules. In that, it is all the ways in which the complex is run, what you're allowed, what you're not allowed, specifically things like dogs, you'll know about, and it is a huge problem where property practitioners do not share the rules as far as pets is concerned with the buyer. The buyer moves in with his 2 dogs and immediately he's contravening the rules, and then the fight starts about which dog you can keep, which one not. When you buy into sectional title, you buy into sets of rules that have been there before you. The complex is not going to fit into your needs. You need to buy into sectional title in a complex where your needs will be met. And if you don't train your buyer on these things, it is going to become a disaster. And unfortunately, often the property practitioners get blamed for not sharing the information. And again, now it is a requirement that you inform a potential buyer of all of these things. Another important aspect, and after COVID so much more, is to ensure that your buyer is aware of the financial standing of the complex. In sectional title, you buy into the problems of the complex. If there's huge amount of outstanding levies and there's outstanding accounts to amounts owed to council or to service providers, the moment you transfer, you take that responsibility onto yourself to solve those issues. More and more banks will also not be interested in giving bonds in complexes where the financials are not looking good, or for that matter, where the compliance to building regulations is not up to date. Remember, the bank needs to ensure that he can sell that unit if the buyer doesn't pay his bond. So they are becoming more and more aware of the risks. And so should you. And so should you make your buyer aware of things like that. Complex audits, what we do a lot of, and that we can assist with and recommend, that if you deal in a complex on a regular basis, that you speak with the trustees and find out how compliant is the complex. Because, as I said, your buyer is going to buy into the problems, and often the buyer might not get a bond because there was additions and alterations done, or the financials. So what we do, trustees will approach us to do a complex audit, and we will obtain the building plans, and often building plans are not available. It is the responsibility of each owner to have copies of the plans. Council have no obligation to keep building plans. As I always say, they keep plans for one reason, and that is to lose them. So you cannot go to council and say, oh, you lost my plans, now it's your problem. No, it's the owner's problem. So we obtain copies of plans, we obtain copies of the sectional title plans, and then we physically go out and survey each unit, all the illegal additions, alterations that was made, and we report back to the body corporate on the compliance as far as things is concerned, like the coverage. Can all these buildings be legalized? How much more space do we have for people that want to make more additions? And we advise them how to legalize the structures. One specific thing and one responsibility of a body corporate is to ensure that levies are collected correctly. Now, if people, a unit have made the extension that now form part of his section, of course, his participation quota need to increase, and therefore his levies will increase. So in a complex where this have not been done, all the owners that have not made additions is basically paying some levies for the people that have made the additions. And therefore, it is not fair, and it is also putting your potential buyer in a situation where he's not aware that he's paying levies for other people. Just a typical example of the outcome, you see how many, all the red is structures that have been added that in a way need to be rectified. It's not a cheap exercise, it's not quick, but it is the responsibility of the body corporate to ensure that that's done. And therefore, you can go to the body corporate, the trustees, and say, listen, how compliant are you? I want to sell units in your complex, and I need to understand what the compliance factor is and what are you doing to fix this. And they're welcome to contact us, and we will assist them in the information. At the end of our complex audit, we will give a report on each unit, and we'll say, listen, the building plans need to be updated, or the sectional title, or both, or the sectional title plans must be updated or is in order, but we need to update the sectional title plans. And we will advise them on how to go through the process of fixing all of these stuff. I just quickly want to see how much time we have. Okay, not much left. If we have questions, then I just want to do a bit of advertising. As I said, we have a division that specializes in sectional titles, the do's and the don'ts, training on it, assisting trustees, assisting property practitioners that are busy with a deal in a complex where they're not sure exactly what's legal, what not, or dispute resolution where a misrepresentation might have been done to a buyer and now he wants to get out of the deal, or a problem arise with the bank, things like that. We always try to use our knowledge to make it better for everybody. So if you have any questions or any tricky situations, or any body corporates trustees that want to know more, you're welcome to refer them to our sectional title division, and we can advise them on the same issues we've discussed now. I think this is as much as we can fit in 45 minutes, so we have a few minutes for questions. I see there is a lot in the chat. Jenny, I don't know if you want to go through some questions, and perhaps if there's time, we can give time for questions from the floor if people want to unmute. But let's first deal with the questions we have.
Okay, the first one is, does the body corporate have the authority to approve modifications to an exclusive use area, be it temporary or fixed, like windy houses, shade, netting, etc.?
The body corporate have that right, but of course they need to follow all the procedures, and part of that procedure will be to first make sure that the exclusive use areas is registered in some way, and then that all the compliance along the Sectional Title Management Act, the building plans, building plan rules and regulations, and the sectional title plans and the town planning, of course, have been adhered to. So we typically advise trustees that whenever there's a request for any additions and alterations, it should always read, the body corporate have in principle no objection to the alteration or addition on condition that all town planning, all national building regulation, and all sectional title rules and regulations have been adhered to. In real life, what often happens is that owner, and the owner is totally not aware of all the rules and regulations, will ask the trustees for permission, and the trustees will give that permission. The owner will automatically assume that that was all the permission that he required, and he will do the alteration. Of course, no trustee or body corporate can give permission to anybody not to obey all the laws. The National Building Regulation is a law. No trustee can say, oh yeah, just carry on, build it, without building plans being approved, the building inspector issuing the certificates and stuff, and when necessary, the sectional title plans are changed to reflect the new situation. So yeah, they can, but they need to follow rules and regulations, and that differ from structure to structure, whether it's common property or it's exclusive use common property. Is it going to become part of the section, or will it be exclusive use? Lots of issues to consider, and that's often where you need an outside professional to advise on these things.
Okay, and the next one, would this also include pergolas?
A pergola is not seen as a structure that have any coverage. So yeah, you put it on the building plan because of course the structure needs to be safe. The problem comes in with pergolas, and we see that on a daily basis. A pergola is only a structure. It have no roof. Now, it doesn't stay a pergola for long, and that's the problem. It might be, people might ask for the pergola, and they put it up. In a few months, they will put some clear roofing material on it, and the moment you put any roofing material, either corrugated iron or see-through material, the moment you do that, it becomes a structure, and it will form part of coverage. And so yeah, a pergola is one thing, but it seldom stays a pergola. So just be aware of the intentions of the owner. Not many people build pergolas to be a pergola.
Okay, the next one, must the body corporate insure and repair illegal structures built on common property if not removed when built? And this is now 2 or 3 owners on from who originally erected it.
Yes. Okay. As I said, one of the sad parts of buying into a sectional title complex that where rules have not been followed is that the moment you buy into a complex, a unit, you buy all the problems that existed at the moment when you bought it. So the fact that 3 owners back made changes, it doesn't help you at all. You are now owning that problem and you need to deal with it. It is unfair of an owner to expect the body corporate to maintain structures for which you are not paying a levy. The idea of a levy is, and that's why levy is calculated by the size of your unit, is you pay your fair share of all the cost in the complex given the size of your share in it. Now, everything that was added later on should have been either included in your section that will make your levy more, and then you could have insisted that they do the maintenance. But you can't pay a levy for a small unit but expect the body corporate to maintain a bigger unit. That's also where it comes in handy to have registered exclusive use areas, because you can put in the rules a variety of options of how you're going to deal with maintenance in exclusive use areas. But the person that have the benefit of it will pay in some way for that maintenance. So that is the danger of complexes that have not been following rules. You can also not, the body corporate cannot allow these structures not to be maintained because it will negatively affect your co-owners, your neighbors' value of their sections. If you have a dilapidated veranda or carport and you say, well, I'm not going to maintain it, the body corporate should, and the body corporate say, listen, it's not part of your section, so you don't pay for it, so we're not going to do it. The person, the people that suffer is the co-owners, because the whole value of the complex go down. And therefore, it is important to follow procedures and take action in complexes like that to either get those structures removed or to have them legalized, make them part of the section, or include them in exclusive use area where the owner can pay and will pay for the maintenance in some way.
Is the balcony owned or is it for exclusive use?
That you can only determine by getting a copy of the sectional title plan. It will vary from complex to complex, and therefore you can never make an assumption about, is it common property, is it exclusive use, is it part of the section. The safest way is to assume it's common property until you have proof that it is different. And therefore, I repeat again, you should never even try and deal with a unit in a section without having the paperwork, because it is very easy to be misled by the owner most of the time, and not because he wants to mislead you, because he was misled or misinformed before, and therefore he will just repeat what he was told when he bought it, and that is very often not the legal situation. You need to be able to defend your understanding of what you're selling in court. If you can't do that, you're on thin ice.
Okay, will it be the responsibility of the agent to confirm the status of the levy collection before listing a sectional title with the intention to properly advise the potential buyers?
Well, the best is when you list it, you need to ask the owner to obtain copy of the financials of the complex. Unfortunately, only owners is entitled to that information. So the owner will have to either, he should have a copy basically, because it was sent to him for the AGM, for the annual general meeting. So he should have a copy, but he can at any stage ask from the managing agent or the trustees for copies of the financial statements. And so before you really start marketing it, you would like to have a copy of the financials so that you can establish for yourself if this is going to be a good investment for a potential buyer. And when you then have a buyer, you can give him this to peruse. If you're not a financial person, like not many of us is, you can just say, listen, I'm not that clued up with this, but here's the financials. Ask a person, a knowledgeable person, to assist you with interpreting this. And it's the same with the sectional title plans and the building plans. I would advise, and I think in future most property practitioners will be skilled to read these plans. It's not difficult, and one needs to put in the effort to understand them. It will take you a day perhaps, and then in future you'll always know what you're talking about and what you're looking at. But if you don't have that knowledge yet, just refer your buyer to somebody that can explain to them if there's any questions on it.
And Antoinette Cronje has a hand up for some time already. I'm just asking her to unmute if she'd like to ask a question.
Okay, Jenny, you can perhaps do the other poll for us as well.
Okay, Antoinette.
Thank you. Sorry, I would have typed up the question, but I'm on my phone and it's very difficult with the little keyboard. Okay, good. So I came across I was marketing a unit in a complex, but the patio was registered on the title deed as communal property, but under a notarial deed. So I don't know if you touched on that, Abrie, then I've missed it. But What is the pros and cons about that for the buyer? Because the way
Okay.
I understand it is that the buyer can enclose that patio.
Okay. The notarial tie will refer to the way of registering exclusive use area by ways of using the land surveyor, and the land surveyor will then indicate it on the sectional title plans. As we said, we just didn't mention the exact wording, but I would guess it refers to an exclusive use area, and the exclusive use area is still common property. So you cannot you cannot enclose that without changing that to become part of the section. The moment it is enclosed, it forms an integral part of the section that should be liable for a levy. And therefore, if you if you type of enclose it with, let's say, these canvas material, for which you also need permission, but then it won't be seen as a permanent enclosure. But once you do a permanent enclosure, firstly, you need to have building plans approved, because it may negatively affect the ventilation of the rest of the section. Let's say there's no other windows in the area that's linked to the patio. You might have a problem convincing council about ventilation. Secondly, you are going to now enclose common property, although it is exclusive use common property, for your own personal use, and you exclude anything else, and you create the extra space where the building is similar to your section on which you pay your levy. So it can be done, but you need to follow instructions, to follow the process. And as I said before, as far as the bulk, the floor area ratio is concerned, the moment that is enclosed, it will form part of bulk, and therefore you need to ensure that there is bulk available, floor area ratio, for the enclosure. In typical complexes, it's never a problem, but it is often a problem in blocks of flats where you have open patios, and that would not be included in the floor area ratio. The moment you enclose it, it will become part of it. And so, yeah, but you cannot just do it. There is a possibility that you can do it if you follow all the steps. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. Jenny, any other questions? Anybody else? I think we are 3 minutes.
That was the last one, Abrie. Anyone else from the floor would like to unmute themselves?
Okay, I think
No, Abrie, that was
Hi,
that.
Abrie.
that's it.
Hello.
Yes. Yeah.
Hi, Abrie. Just a quick question. Thanks for this. I'm new in the game, and I'm learning a lot here, just listening to what you're saying. I want to find out if you've applied for financials from the body corporate and the body corporate rules, okay? And they supply it. The bank's granted a bond, everything's gone through, and then after the new owner takes occupation of the keys, example, things like that, you find out that there have been problems with the body corporate, for example, on electricity rates, etc. What happens then?
You can only, as my personal opinion on that is, you can only do what you can do. You can ask for documentation from the body corporate, like you say, the financials. You've asked that. You can perhaps ask them questions on Are there any other information that should be valuable or is important to a potential buyer? But there's no way that you as a property practitioner can know everything about the complex. Of course, and that's the advantage of dealing in specific complexes over a period of time. You will start to learn the tricks and trades of the complex, and that will make you a better property practitioner to deal in that specific complex. But you cannot be held liable for information that you have requested that was given to you, but all the information was not disclosed. So I think the more questions you ask, and the more questions you ask in writing, the more you will guard yourself against those things. But I think if you give a buyer all the information that we've discussed, I think it would be very difficult to keep you liable or make you liable for any information that was withheld from you as well. So I think you're fairly safe. I think with all of these documentation, it's important to put these stuff in the OTP as well. If there's certain information that you don't have, that you declare that and that the buyer signs for it. It's not good enough just to have the conversation and say, well, we can't find the building plans now, so, you know, it shouldn't be a problem. That should be in writing, and the buyer should sign that he takes note of that and he accepts the responsibility that goes with it. Otherwise, later on, it's going to be I say, you say, he say, and it's going to come.
Ons 4 huge dogs op daai.
Maar dit nie eers sê, maar dan gaan sy sê, maar as ander diere, maar ek nie diere daai. Net gesê, unfortunately nou pets, dis wat is
Ek het voor gesê.
Ja, nee.
Dit gaan nie werk nie, want hulle gaan gevreet word.
Ja, nee, maar. Dag sê ook nou hondhulper.
Hallo julle.
There we go.
Geen pets
there is another question. I hear 2 people talking at the same time at the moment.
Maar raak dit is met dan net. Nie as ek laat dier bring, sy raai dier wil fok die hond gaan plan om die hond.
Just mute. Okay, is there somebody that want to unmute themselves? And just, I think we have time for one more question.
Abrie?
Yes.
What about electric fencing and electric motor boxes? Does the House Owners Association or the body corporate have to supply that for you?
Yes, the body corporate, there should be a COC for the electric fence, and yeah, it should be available from the body corporate or the homeowners association if it's a homeowners association. So at least you should ask for it. If they can't give it to you, you need to just put it in your documentation that it was requested, but it's not available, so you cannot take responsibility for it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I see in the poll there's quite a need for all of the above. So I would suggest that you perhaps write a mail to JJR and ask for specific issues, and they can arrange with us, and we can have special sessions only on specific issues. I see there's just another question. Does homeowner insurance give? Oh, I missed that one. Jenny, can you just read that one?
Abrie, I'm just opening it up for you. Does homeowner insurance given by bonding bank, is it sufficient in a duet?
Duets are, as we know, just 100% sectional title. Technically, each duet should have compulsive insurance for the complex, the 2 units. In real life, that doesn't happen. And there is a great move I think, to rectify this, but I don't know how it's going to be done. Of course, insurance for content insurance is not going to assist you at all. Mostly the banks will accept insurance in their weights from each separate owner. The problem is that you don't know about the insurance of your co-owner in the duet. Often people believe they live in full title, and the wall is, what's this side of the wall is mine and what's your side is yours. So if possible, it is good to have a discussion with your co-owner, neighbor, and ensure that in real life it's a different ball game, because people don't always even know that they have a co-owner. So yeah, that's about as much as I can say about that. The law and the reality is not getting together as far as the weights is concerned, and it is concerning. Okay, I think we are about 10 minutes over. Thank you for everybody that joined, and feel free to send us questions, to make contact with us. JJR will send you information, and our information if you don't have it. And so yeah, we gladly assist you and your clients with any of these issues. Thank you very much for your time.